Wow. All right, hey, can you all hear me? How about out there in the at the news desk? Can you all hear me in the news desk? All right. Hey, Joe Carlasari torched me in karaoke last night, so this shirt was his, but I took it off his back. I'm going to just throw this. This is a proof of workforce shirt. It's coming sent right now, okay? All right, you ready?
Oh, really?
All right. Wow, don't rush all at once, y'all. Don't rush all at once. My name is Don Bay. I'm a firefighter, former president of the Santa Monica Firefighters, and quickly here in 15 minutes, I want to share with you the story of the Santa Monica Firefighters, the first union in the nation to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And additionally, I want to share with you the movement that is proof of workforce and what we're doing for workers. So, to start off, who here by a show of hands trades time for money? And I'll start because I trade time for money. Anyone in the back, don't be shy. Even if you pay yourself in your own business and you're on salary, if you trade money for a time for money, put your hands up. Okay, you're in the right place because this talk and our work is dedicated to people who are wage earners, everyday workers, okay? So the good news, we're here. Thank you all for joining us for the talk. Thank you, Bitcoin Magazine, for having me as a presenter. Round of applause for this incredible conference. Like, this is insane. The Secret Service checked my bag today, y'all. Like, I know it's kind of rough, but like kind of cool as well. So, okay, the bad news. We know that we're trading time for money that does not hold up over time. And this chart, this graph says it all, right? Money printing is going up. The value of the dollar is going down, other than a very short period of time in which its value went up. The value of dollars is going down. In the short term, we trade our time for money for a check every 2 weeks. And we've learned about inflation. A lot of us have known about inflation, but we've really learned about it over the last 3 years because it's accelerated. So in 2020, if you had $10,000 under your mattress, right, you lost almost $2,000 of purchasing power just in 3 years. And that's conservative. That doesn't include the eggs, the milk, the rent, the energy. So that's conservative. Also, if you work for a living and you got paid and you did not get a 20% raise, you took a pay cut. So in the short term, this deal kind of sucks. And so that's one way we trade our time for money. The other way we trade our time for money is through retirement. And as a firefighter and a lot of public service employees have a pension fund. Now, this chart has a ton of information on it. This is like a violation of a presentation, way too much stuff going on there. But I want you to look at the blue shaded area. This is the funded status of, average funded status of state and local pension funds. And if you can see over there in 2007, 2008, right, when we know a big thing happened, what that means is that the yellow line is how much the pensions owe, the people it pays to retire, future retirees. The black line is the assets it holds. So the difference is called its unfunded liability. So if you have $1 billion you have to pay to retirees and you have $1 billion in assets, you're fully funded at 100%. What this graph shows is that pension funds drastically, they have a wide differential between how much money they have in assets and what they owe. And there's a cost to that. It's a carrying cost for unfunded liabilities and interest payments. So they're falling into debt. And if you notice that blue shaded area, you would think during the longest equity bull run in American history that gap would close. But it has not closed. And it will not close. A lot of signs are pointing to it widening, and pensions are taking more risks and increasing payments and contributions from everyone and all that. So I ask workers all the time, what do you own outside of the traditional finance system? The same system that brought us the financial crisis, the same system that forced pensions to receive bailouts, but if you notice in the headlines, pensions don't just get a bailout, they also make cuts to jobs, they increase how much you have to pay into the pension, and additionally, they push back retirement age. The same system that says, hey, in 2002, the average retirement age was 59. We're going to push it to 64. And the traditional finance system has shown that they are happy to balance the errors of the fiat ledger on the backs of everyday workers, right? And pushing back your retirement age is just an example. Our fire department, we lost a guy to brain cancer a year ago, and that guy was 1 year from retirement. And so these years matter, especially when you're working hard for 30 years. There's high risk with, like, police officers, firefighters, right, and wage earners, and those years could be the difference between getting sick on the job and having a retirement. So this matters. The same system that, I have gold and treasuries, those are untouchable, right? Except for JP Morgan paid $1 billion for openly manipulating precious metals in the treasury market. So I don't know, maybe they pay $1 billion for nothing, but I know their lawyers are pretty good, and if they weren't really running that, I don't know if they pay, but that's out of my ballpark. There's a hierarchy of money. Real estate, pension funds, 401ks, savings, gold, right? Government debt is the least risky, or was, and it trickles down to households. The thing about that hierarchy of money, unless you can get a sitting U.S. Senator, can anyone get a sitting U.S. Senator on FaceTime right now? If so, I'll give you another t-shirt and some sats. I can't. And what that means is that you're on the outside of this system. Trust me, we are on the outside of this system. The decisions that are made to balance that equation when things go wrong, that household item at the end, it's the easiest to take from, and they can take small amounts from everyone and try to balance that ledger. They're going to do that long before they hit Jamie Dimon at JP Morgan, and he gets upset and starts going on a warpath. But now we have something on the outside, finally. My God, it's incredible, right? We have Bitcoin on the outside. I even put an arrow so it's on the outside, okay? They can't get that, and that arrow was crucial. A lot of people told me to take that out, and I'm like, no, people won't know it's on the outside. So some of the fundamentals, there's many facets. You all know it as well as me, many of you better than I do, right? Self-custody, you hold it, scarce forever. Not forever, but we have an incentive to keep it scarce, and we're going to protect that. And it's decentralized, okay? Thomas Jefferson had a quote. He said, "The essence of liberty is independence, which is dependent upon the ownership of productive property." I will add something to that. I will say it's dependent upon the ownership of productive property that cannot be taken from you or manipulated, and that's Bitcoin. And for that reason, the Santa Monica Firefighters became the first union to purchase and hold Bitcoin in self-custody in the country. Thanks, y'all. But if you look at the date, June 3rd, 2023, why didn't someone do this already? Like, that's a little bit late in the game, right? We're definitely not early. We're not late, but... And, of course, the union hasn't added Bitcoin to the balance sheet. Look at the everyday headlines and the negative media blitz. Mike on the last panel talked about it, right, with BlackRock. But you all know the negative media on Bitcoin has been nothing short of remarkable. And because of that, a lot of people they're misinformed. You'd be crazy to actually spend Bitcoin, the great Bitcoin scam. This is what could pop the bubble. Warren Buffett, right, the most infamous, Bitcoin's rat poison square. These get so much airtime. So how are you going to go into a union and say, hey guys, 120 union members or however many, we're going to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet? Like, you're going to get roughed up and driven out of there, right? So how do you do that? Well, the way to do it with organizations is to lower the stakes and get off zero. And something that I've learned in working with organizations is that when people have perceptions that are based or trigger like emotional responses like fear, it is better to neutralize those fears than to try to combat the misinformation. When's the last time you had a conversation with someone that started with, hey, you're completely wrong on this, you're way off, you're misinformed, you have no idea what you're talking about, now let's move together and work on this thing? When has that ever worked? Never in the history of the world, right? So by getting off zero, I thought, imagine if we only put $1 per member in self-custody. What would be the response to the reactions, right? Okay, didn't Bitcoin crash from 69 to 15? Sure, but do you care at $1? People lose it. What if we lose Bitcoin? Someone hacks it. We know it can be lost, so okay, good point. We could lose it, but at $1, we're going to learn. Could get hacked, not if you hold it correctly. Is it legal? What if people disapprove? Don't criminals use it? Sure, yes, of course. What's it backed by? All these things. When you bring it to $1, you have to say, fine, it's true, but we're going to do it anyways to learn. What if it's not true? What if it's more to this story? So we put this item, it was a measure, and we put it to the membership and had the memberships vote on it because I'm a huge believer in rank and file approval of actions, especially when they're bold new actions. You get everyone on board. And this was approved by 89% of the membership. It passed. So we were on board. The journey started. We bought it at the park. This was the finish line of the 2009 marathon. And Hal Finney was in that marathon, but he didn't get to finish because he had early symptoms of ALS, which he didn't know. So we wanted to purchase and put the Bitcoin in self-custody there at the park as an ode to Hal of like, hey, we build upon the block of those that came before us, and we continue that work moving forward. So that's why we bought it there at the park. Union adoption, why does it matter for Bitcoin? Almost 15 million members in the US, 207 union members globally, 29 billion in total union assets. That doesn't include pensions. 6 trillion in public pension assets in the US, 25 to 48 trillion in global pension assets. The union worker, aside from participating in a pre-existing circular economy, is a voter, campaign donor, savings, pensions. They have a good amount of it. They're consumers. Why this is important is because when this individual prioritizes something, it's much more difficult for the government to come in and say, oh, we're going to mishandle or mistreat this. All right, it's a strong group, and workers, whether they're union or not, imagine if every worker had and prioritized Bitcoin as part of their financial future. Some of these challenges we're facing at the federal level would disappear like that. So we started a nonprofit, and our mission is to orange pill every worker and union member in the United States and eventually in the world. And we will do it, I promise you. We've had some people join us since. Vacaville Firefighters, Humboldt Bay, a fire association in El Salvador. We raised some money for them for some sats and self-custody. And latest, we're now coast to coast, the Taunton Firefighters. If anyone from Boston out here? Any Boston? Okay, so Taunton's just outside of Boston. They now hold Bitcoin, so we're off to the races. We also hosted a board of trustee member from the Wisconsin retirement system 10 months ago on the Nakamoto Gauntlet. I don't know if any of you watch. It's a show I do with Hoffa and Joe Carlasari and Greg Foss, legends. And we broke down Bitcoin. Well, 10 months later, they went on to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. A big deal for Bitcoin and us. Our board of directors, I see some people in the audience. Chris Alamo, absolute living legend on our board of directors. I believe we have one of the most qualified board of directors for assisting at no cost unions, workers, pension funds, and now municipalities. We have Ajit Singh, who's the CIO of the Houston Firefighters, a $5 billion pension fund, and the first pension in the United States to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. All right, this is really important, and I know it's time we're running out. Your immediate world depends on you to find Bitcoin, okay? This is really important because if, the clients at BlackRock and all the wealthy people end up winning on Bitcoin, and sure, we all win here, but the workers and wage earners are still struggling. I don't view that as a necessarily huge win for Bitcoin or for the world, right? We need to help people find Bitcoin. So your immediate world, your church, your workplace, your fitness club, your town and city, your union, your family, although your family, don't do that at Thanksgiving. You know what happens on the dip on that. That's a problem. We have open source, and we're trying to open source all of our sources so people don't need us. Many doors will open for you in your lifetime. Please walk through as many as you can. Orange pill people, your neighborhood. Don't wait for the federal government to just, put the rubber stamp on Bitcoin. Get your local community involved and start there. And don't forget them. Don't leave them behind. And Really excited. We had the Santa Monica Bitcoin office. We assisted in the first municipal Bitcoin office in the United States with a ton of crazy initiatives. Thank you guys. And that's coming soon. And so really excited for what's to come. Thank you for your time. Please share our mission. Please share with anyone that you think will support. We are going to continue to broaden Bitcoin adoption and add to this beautiful movement that we all are fortunate to be a part of. Thank you so much and have a great conference, everyone.
Guys, thank you. Let's hear it for Baywatch.